let's start with you on this one. How strong is the focus on women's health this year when it comes to, or as measured against, preventive care?
Oh, it's a pro team compared to a JV high school team. I mean, preventive health is not
Right out of the gate. Okay.
That's not a player this year. Not a player at preventive health. Not a player. First of all, one of the problems with preventive health is that the research on what actually works to achieve the right outcomes is not all that trustworthy in all cases. And
Misinformation, are you saying?
sometimes, but yes, there's a lot of misinformation. But also there's some studies that reverse. You know, we've had that happen, and it undermines public trust. I think and this administration has, in fact, they've nominated two people, one for NIH and one for FDA, who have been on record saying the scientific research community has not done a good service to the American public, and we have to do better on constructing studies that are more reliable. So, example being Marty Makary for FDA, he just wrote a book, and he talked about hormone replacement therapy. Here we go to women's health, and how the research in hormone replacement therapy is actually very strong, that it's good for women, but because there was one study that was misinterpreted and put out in the public, it said it was bad for your heart. That has been debunked. It's not true, but a lot of women have missed that opportunity for HRT as a result. That's a major chapter in his book, and he talks about it all the time. I think that's something that we're going to see a lot of in this administration, so there's a lot of distrust about what preventive health leads to the right outcomes. Again, I'm not going to say that I support all of that or don't. It's ridiculous. There's some that's fantastic. We should all be worried about prevention. Nonetheless, that is not going to be the reigning and dominating trend. Women's health is absolutely, for two reasons that you mentioned, but two ends of the life cycle, really. Reproductive health, what's going to happen with the abortion drug? I mean, it's not only between states, but what could happen on the federal level? Will the FDA still, make it available? Who knows? There's a lot of questions, and that is where something like 2/3 of all abortions are with the abortion medications. So, big question, and it will be a major issue in the next year. In addition, is maternity care in general, is maternal mortality. It remains a major issue. And then on the other side of the life cycle, older women, as the population ages, they are more susceptible to getting Alzheimer's, but just in general to needing long-term care and to needing more services. And we have no idea in this country what to do about long-term care. We almost just abandoned it because it's so difficult to solve that issue, and that's going to become an increasing issue. I also think, and that's a women's issue. I mean, it's the vast majority of people who need long-term care are going to be women. So I think we are going to need to put more focus on women's health, and even if we don't want to, it will become front and center because of all of the controversies around reproductive health. One other issue I think is going to come to the fore around reproductive health in particular is the population is declining. Women are having fewer children. And that's in this country, but also internationally. It's a huge issue in like China and other countries. So I think promoting childbirth is going to become an issue. And we've heard President Trump actually speak about that. It's not fully on the radar yet, but I see that emerging as well.
David?
I don't know what to do with this. At the risk of being canceled, I just totally disagree. In some ways, you made a compelling case for focus on preventive care, because if we had a focus on preventive care, then women wouldn't be living a decade longer than their male counterparts. So I think prevention is the only answer. I mean, we've been talking about workforce challenges, access. We've talked about the high cost of care. We've got an administration whose leaderships really are on record around being zealots for prevention. So although women are a massive part of healthcare purchasing power and have special interests that are important, and we shouldn't discount them, prevention touches every American, and so for that reason, I'm pretty bullish here on prevention as an upset JV team taking on the pro team. and actually maybe pulling it out the buzzer.
Anisha?
This one hurts my heart a little bit. I know what's going to happen. So, women's health feels like my alma mater that I'm just like, rooting for and hope they make it. And I feel like they're just not going to be able to pull it off, even though they're a one seat. And I think the reason for that is, to be honest, there's less of a focus on both genders, let's put it nicely, with this administration. You see what's happened around clinical trials. So you mentioned there's a whole bunch of issues that tend to impact women more than they impact men. But the research around that, they are starting to pull out. No, we don't want diversity in clinical trials anymore. That's not good. That's too much DEI. But the reality is it's not 50-50. It just seems like even though it's not, it still will not become a priority. And that's, I think, my biggest concern with women's health.
But I haven't seen them play. I've heard about them.
Yeah.
And their ideas around nutrition and healthier lifestyle and prevention and chronic disease is near and dear to my heart. And I think if the policies of the administration align with those ideals, that's going to have a material impact. But I don't know what else comes with MAHA. What all are we going to get there? And so it is interesting.
Would you like an umbrella with that drink?
Yeah, MAHA. So I have a sense that it's going to have an impact that's going to be significant, but it's a little hard to predict exactly what that's going to look like. My assessment of private equity is that the scrutiny is well deserved. I think the net impact of private equity in healthcare has been negative. I think it's largely been a force to drive prices higher. I don't think it's materially changed quality and safety. We'll get Leah's opinion on that. I think you'll start to see a little bit of the demise of private equity as a player. And so I guess being an optimist, I'll go. I think MAHA might take this one.
Okay, Eric, counterpoint or endorsement of that?
Yeah, endorsement. I think the right word there was potential. And so I think Make America Healthy Again has a ton of potential, to shape food policies, to shape reimbursement, and preventative care models. Private equity scrutiny, it's kind of like an NCAA investigation into recruiting violations, right? I mean, it's important, but it's not going to change the fundamentals of the game.
I think this is a matchup where somebody loses the game, somebody doesn't win the game. So for capital markets to work...
That's well said. I like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Capital markets to work, you need security, you need stability of financial policy, transparency perhaps, and we have none of that right now. So if you think about the public markets as well. So folks that are ready to IPO, are folks actually lining up to be able to gear to go public this year? And the answer is, if we don't know how payments are going to be made for anything that relates to CMS, whether it be Medicare or Medicaid, and there's dollars being frozen, if there are policies like that where one of the key purchasers of some of these smaller, earlier stage companies would be hospitals and health systems, and we don't know about their financial security and it remains up in the air, I don't see how the capital markets can thaw. They only become, I don't know, more iced, I guess perhaps is a way to think it. Whereas cell and gene therapy has been around for some time, huge advancements, as Dave mentioned, in terms of what they can do for health. I do not know how they get paid for. For some of the ones that are out there right now, we're still talking multiple millions of dollars. And for the ones that are coming out right now, the pipeline's pretty heavy in cancers or rare cancers. And so again, if you think about the pharmaceutical companies needing to make their penny on it, where does that dollar come from? Is it going to come from the reinsurer bucket? Maybe that's where we're going to see kind of this impact, but it doesn't feel like it's a slam dunk. So that's why I say I think capital markets are just the loser in this game. And yeah, this is when you may turn it off at halftime and just sort of, go do your laundry.
Eric, do organizations like Longitude Health and what they're attempting to do, owned currently by 4 health systems across the country, creating 3 different operating companies, one specifically designed to focus and concentrate on specialty RX with those 4 health systems that all represent collectively billions of dollars and spend around the country. Is that an example of this year is the time that we'll see specialty RX make a move because health systems are now using that as a proxy for it? Health systems are embracing that they need to do something, not just wait for regulatory change?
I mean, that's a leading question, but I'll take the bait. I do.
Take the bait.
You know, I don't think that this year Longitude Health is gonna, you know, it's gonna take some time, right, to build these companies and to raise the capital. But I mean, I think it's gonna be a conversation. I think there's a reason why they're doing that, and I think that that's gonna become more of a reality this year than it ever has been.
Dan, more of a reality than seeing movement on price transparency.
Correct.
issues.
Correct.
Feel differently?
No, but for different reasons. I mean, I think at the end of the day, until I see the market leading health systems who have negotiated because of their size and influence and brand higher reimbursement, the day they start lowering their prices because they feel like they're losing high margin business because of actions that a collection of employers have taken, then I'll start to believe. I haven't seen it, and having sat on the Blue Cross side of the table negotiating with them, there frankly wasn't really a concern about being a higher priced provider because they perceived that their value prop was stronger and they should extract a higher price. So to me, I'm less a believer that it's going to actually change the problem. I think it'll create activity that'll be interesting. On the other side of it, about Longitude Health, it kind of depends on whether health systems view drugs as profit centers or cost. I mean, with 340B and the what I'll call maybe bastardization of that program, frankly, in some ways, drugs are a real source of revenue too for health systems, and so it'll be interesting to see whether the conglomerations like Longitude will actually drive prices to end using the purchasers down or not, or whether it creates more efficiency for the health system. So I'll keep my vote probably the same way.